All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. So glad you could join us on a Monday. God, I'm really looking forward to this college football game tonight, by the way. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Not sure where we're going to go to watch it, but we're going to watch it somewhere. But I won't tell you where it is in case some of our listeners decide to show up like Barbara. I don't know. But anyway, welcome back to the show. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we will be joined by UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. Let's talk a little UNLV real quickly. A little bit of a surprise to some is that the UNLV basketball program is now 4-1 in conference play. They had another win over the weekend on the road. They lost to Boise State, and then they came back and went to Wyoming, which, even though Wyoming's not a very good basketball team, Wyoming is still not an easy place to play on the road. And, boy, the end of that game was crazy because I actually bet UNLV at -7. And UNLV was losing for most of the game. And Wyoming, I think they missed like 6 of their last 8 or 9 free throws. And UNLV forced the game into overtime. And UNLV covered the spread, and they ended up winning by 9. And like I said, the spread was 7. So they made me a few bucks too. But any win on the road in the Mountain West Conference is a good win. Even though the conference is not very good this year, it was a nice win for UNLV. And the fact that they are 4-1 in conference play is great. You know, it's a good start to conference play. I think the conference, obviously, San Diego State is they're the team to beat. They're a top 5 team in the country. They are so good. But, you know, it's open season, for the rest of the conference, in my personal opinion. And joining us on the line right now, I guess we could start talking basketball, and then we'll go to football. It is UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. Desiree, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, Desiree.
Appreciate your time. We'll get to the football program in a second, but we were just talking a little UNLV hoops. The fact that the UNLV in conference now is 4-1, you must be very, very pleased with that. And it certainly appears to me anyway, and to most people, that the effort, particularly on the defensive end, has been great, especially the last several weeks. Your thoughts on that?
You know what? I really like what I've seen so far. And being tied for second in the Mountain West Conference, and we're 4-1. It's really I'm really optimistic. And heck, did you know if we can sweep this week at home, it would mark our first 6-1 start to the Mountain West since I think 2008.
Yeah, it's been a while. And you know what, Desiree, that doesn't surprise me because, they're playing some good basketball, particularly on the defensive end. I want to ask you something that I think is really important, and it's a decision that T.J. Otzelberger made a few weeks ago, and that was holding players accountable. If you recall, there were several players on the team that broke some rules, and even I believe it was even Tillman that was late to a shoot-around, and he was suspended 1 game. And he wasn't starting Amari Hardy, who I think you could make the argument is the heart and soul of the team and maybe one of their best, if not their best player. He didn't start Amari Hardy. And the day that he did start Hardy, I saw Hardy a different player. He was playing better on both ends of the floor. I thought the effort was there. That's what I'm trying to say. And I asked Hardy after the game, after their win, I said, these decisions that the coach has made, is that a factor? And he said, absolutely. It's why we've come together as a team. It's why we're playing harder. Coach made the right decision in not starting me. First of all, I thought that was very mature on his part to admit that, number one. And number two, I think I don't want to really talk about past coaches, but I will say this. There are some coaches that have coached at UNLV basketball that would have not have made that difficult decision that T.J. Otzelberger made in holding players accountable, and I gave him a lot of kudos for that, and I think that's one of the main reasons why they're playing better. Would you agree with that?
I would. One thing that I really appreciate about TJ is he's completely a competitor. He has that wonderful balance of humanity, but he also recognizes that he has to establish a culture. And part of his culture and part of his identity and part of this team's identity, right, is we're determined, but we're going to be disciplined. And so we can't just say that we're going to be disciplined. Our actions have to meet that expectation as well. And I'm really proud of him for setting that culture even when it's not easy.
Sure. No, I agree with you. If you're just joining us, UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. All right, let's talk about a difficult subject. I think it's difficult around college basketball, not just at UNLV, and that is attendance. Let's be honest. It's difficult when there's only 2,000 or 3,000 fans at the Thomas and Mack Center, especially when the team is winning. And I understand that attendance is down across the country. I get that. But, I remember the days, 7 or 8 years ago, and this was way before you got here. And by the way, I would never say this is your fault or TJ's fault. I think it's, mistakes that have been made in the past that have led to where the program is at now as far as attendance goes. But I remember 7, 8 years ago when, 10, 12,000 people in there. And now, 3,000 or 4,000 people. So I guess it's a two-part question. Why do you think this is happening, not just at UNLV, but across the country? And number two, as the athletic director, what do you think you can do to try to get more people in the Thomas and Mack Center for some of these games?
Well, we have to earn folks' trust back. And we understand that, and we're going to do that person by person. I think when folks come to Thomas and Mack, they're going to see a team that's determined. They're going to see a team that hustles. They're going to see a team and a program that wants to win just as much as they do, but we're not going to sacrifice we're going to play the long game. And I think that's really important, right? We're going to create, you talked about the discipline that TJ is instilling, and that's what this team is going to be known for. Those hustle stats, I'd love to look at the beginning of the year hustle stats and compare them through the end of the year, and I think we're going to continue to see that trend line increasing, because this is a team that's going to work really hard, and we're going to earn our fans' trust back. We're going to play a competitive schedule. We're going to be we recognize that our fans, just like fans across the country, there is competition for their time, there's competition for their dollars, but you know what? We provide a great family-friendly environment, and we're going to provide really quality entertainment. And I hate to say that my student-athletes competition is entertainment, but it really is. And most importantly, we're creating a basketball program that people can be proud of.
So, serious question here, and I think this would actually increase attendance. Now, bear with me. What do you think, and I actually asked TJ Otzelberger this when we first had him on when he first became coach, how do you think a Otzelberger would do served at the Thomas and Mack Center? Because I feel like it would do really, really well, and it would be kind of an added bonus to drive traffic. Can we make that happen, Desiree, by creating an Otzelberger?
You know what? If you so when I was, this is way a long time ago, but when I was doing research on TJ, right, I do a lot of weird internet stalking, and I look at every possible speech and video, et cetera. And there was a commercial that I found that if you Google it, it's kind of funny. There was an Otzelberger in South Dakota. Did you know that? And have you seen the commercial?
I have not. I have to check this out now.
Oh boy. That's like Emmy. If they give out Emmys for commercials, I think we should definitely nominate the entire Otzelberger family for that.
So what would you put on an Otzelberger, Desiree? Would you put hot peppers on there?
Very
or
valid question.
What condiments would you put on there?
Oh boy. You know what? Okay, so let's see. That's a great question. We're going to have some can I make it a vegetarian burger?
Just kidding. It's healthy. That's okay.
Well, there can be one vegan option.
How do I put determination as a condiment? But it will be substantive, and
Fair.
It's going to be.
It'll fill the belly. It'll be a good meal.
Oh gosh,
yes.
Can we just go? Can we switch subjects?
Yeah,
now?
let's switch now.
But speaking of which, you asked a great question about attendance. And so we are 4-1, and then we have San Jose State on Wednesday at 8. But then on Saturday, we have a blackout, and we're playing New Mexico, and New Mexico is also tied for second with us. So it's a really big game, and we really hope we see fans, not only because we love seeing fans in the building, but it provides such a great energy, and it also happens to be one of the biggest football recruiting weekends of the year for us. So we really hope to see people out on Saturday.
Yeah, I hope so as well. There's nothing more fun than when the team is winning, just from a standpoint of the media covering the team. And then when it's packed in there, it's a lot more fun for everybody. All right, let's move on to football, Desiree. As you might know, we have a new UNLV football coach. So let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little ways, Coach Arroyo. Let's go back a little bit. So he was the quarterback at San Jose State. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you were working there, in the athletic department. So can you take me back to that? If you remember, that first conversation you had with Arroyo as the quarterback at San Jose State, what was your first impression of him years back when you just remember meeting him for the first time? What was that like?
Well, he was so this was maybe my first full-time job out of law school. And I was the director of compliance, and this was back in the day when compliance was still a relatively newish industry, and I was a one-woman shop. But my best memory of Mark, and so he was on the Student Athlete Advisory Council, so I remembered him through that. But what I really remember, and my brother and I talked about this a couple of months ago, Mark, we played against TCU, and this was the LaDainian Tomlinson TCU team. They were, I think, number 9 in the country, and I think they were undefeated going into San Jose State. We had a student athlete by the name of Neil Perry, and earlier in the year, Neil Perry had a brother named Josh Perry who was a linebacker for us. Neil was on special teams, suffered a really tragic accident on the football field, ended up breaking his leg, and through a series of complications, he had to have part of his leg amputated.
Oof.
And Neil, and I think you know the story about my brother, and my brother broke his neck playing football and became a quadriplegic.
Yep.
My brother and I became really close with the Perry family, and Neil was returning to the stadium not to play but to watch the game for the TCU game. It was a back and forth game. We had some really good wide receivers. But it was supposed to be a battle of LaDainian Tomlinson, and then we had a strong running back, Deontay Whitaker, at the time, and the focus was on the running backs. But anyway, it was an emotional game, and Marcus engineered, I think we ended up winning maybe like 24-23, or maybe 27-24, I can't remember exactly. But what I remember was Marcus's leadership. This was an emotional time for our team, but he was steady, he was poised, and he really, he just provided leadership that I thought was really remarkable. And he was getting beat up on that field, but he just kept going, and he persevered, and his determination was just something that resonated. And my brother and I talked about it, like I said, just a couple of months ago, and that's what I remembered about Marcus Arroyo, was the leader he was when his team needed him.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. I didn't know that story. That's incredible. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Desiree Reed-Francois, UNLV athletic director. Okay, so as you know, the UNLV football program, it doesn't have the storied history that the basketball program has, and I think it's fair to say that the team consistently has not been able to win. I think that's a very fair statement to say just based on wins and losses over the course of the last 20 years. With that being said, it is my personal opinion that this job is an extremely difficult job. And even with the new facilities, which is great, you still have to win football games and you have to recruit. So this might be a loaded question for you. Why is he the guy? Why is this the guy that you think is best to be served at UNLV football to turn this thing around and have this team winning football games and hopefully making it to bowl games?
Sure. First of all, I don't think winning at any place is easy.
Right.
If it was easy, everyone would do it. When we analyzed UNLV football over the past 2.5 years, we studied programs that did not have a history of success. Mm-hmm. We looked at and what changed, right? And so I looked at K-State. I looked at Virginia Tech. I looked at Cincinnati. And people think Virginia Tech it's always been a strong football program, and they think of Michael Vick, but it wasn't. And same thing with Cincinnati until I guess probably D'Antonio and then Brian Kelly and then Butch Jones, and Cincinnati has turned the corner, but that it wasn't always a strong football program. And same thing with K-State. And so we've studied that, and we've talked with folks there, and really it came down to three things: direction, alignment, and resources. We are working really hard to provide them this football program with the resources between the new stadium and the potentials that brings, as well as our new TV contract, et cetera. So we're gonna have those resources for our conference, and we're going to be competitive. Alignment, our president has been incredibly supportive, our board of regents, and so we feel really good about the alignment. And then the last piece was the direction, and I needed the right leader at this critical moment in time. And in Marcus, what stood out for me, yes, I knew his name, and I knew him as an 18 to 22-year-old at San Jose State, but he didn't get this job because he was my student athlete. I followed his career because he was my student athlete, but he got it because he was prepared. And when I hire any head coach, if it's Jenny Ruiz, who's our new women's soccer coach, if it's Don Sullivan, if it's TJ Otzelberger, I look for three things: character, competence, and temperament. Marcus, I knew had the character, and I knew he had the humility to lead young men. Remember, these are someone's sons and daughters. I
Right.
know it's really easy to think of our student athletes as numbers or X's and O's, but they all have hopes and dreams, and we make recruiting promises to those parents, and I wanted someone who can lead young people.
Sure. No, it makes sense. Yeah.
So character and then the competence, I knew he was prepared.
Mm-hmm.
He had seen what excellence looked like at his various stops. He's also had to really work his way up. He's been at places with big resources like the University of Oregon, but he's also been at Southern Miss and San Jose State.
Right.
So he knows what it's like to compete
Mm-hmm.
and to excel with not having as many resources. So I wanted someone with that determination and that drive,
Mm-hmm.
also that intellect.
Sure. 2, 3, 4 years down the road, when we're talking about UNLV football, where does this program need to be at for you and everyone around you to say, man, did you make a great hire? Was this the right decision? Where does this program need to be 2, 3, 4 years down the road?
Well, like I say with all of our coaches, we need to have a plan and we need to show progress. And we're going to know progress when we see it. And we look at that. And I know I say this word a lot and people like to make fun of me, but I do like to look at it holistically.
Mm-hmm.
I want to look at the student-athlete experience. Academics matter to us. We are in the education business first and foremost. Now, we're not going to apologize because we also want to win, and we expect to win. But we know that winning, you have to have a solid foundation. So we're going to build that solid foundation, and we're going to have a plan, and we're going to show you progress.
So Marcus Arroyo, he's considered a borderline elite recruiter, but from an X's and O's perspective, as far as on the field, where do you think he'll excel the most?
Well, he's always been on the offensive side of the ball. He's also he's surrounding himself with really good coaches that have strong values, that are prepared and that bring a different angle. So I'm enthused to see what he's going to look at globally. He's incredibly organized. He's really smart, and his work ethic, it can't be matched. So, yes, he's a great recruiter. Yes, his offensive play calling is exceptional, but he also has the humility to recognize where he where he's a little bit less experienced.
Sure. I want to bring up something. I think this is very important. So we had Randall Cunningham on our show a few weeks ago. He had nothing but nice things to say about you. He's now more involved with the football program, certainly since I've been around here the last 20 years or so. We even asked him, if Coach Arroyo gave him a spot on the coaching staff, he would seriously consider taking it. He's also said he wants a suite over there in the new stadium. Like I said, it seems like now he wants to be more involved than ever before. I think that is just so important. I would say the same thing about the basketball program. Having guys like Larry Johnson, Greg Anthony around the program, going to practices. I just think having these legends around, I'm sure you would agree, is so important. So can you talk to me a little bit about Randall Cunningham and how important it is for him to be back around this program more than ever before?
Randall Cunningham, there haven't been many that are greater quarterbacks and greater ambassadors for the entire sport, not just UNLV. I've grown up watching Randall Cunningham and seeing the way that he transformed that position. He is a leader not only as a football player but in our community, and it's important that we have someone of his stature and his leadership around our program and his character. We're really fortunate and really blessed to have someone like Randall around our program, and I want to continue. And he's someone that I spoke with because I really respect all that he's done, not only for UNLV, but for the game of football. And so I listened to him, and I've heard his expertise, and I want to continue doing that. He's an important part of our past, but also an important part of our future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Desiree, I always appreciate it when you take your time to come on this show and talk with us. Thank you so much. And we want to remind everybody, Wednesday night, UNLV basketball, San Jose State. We will certainly be there, as I'm sure you will as well. Desiree, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Desiree.
There you go. UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. I appreciate her honesty. I think those are great qualities when she talks about Coach Arroyo. And I'm sure you would agree with me, JD. This is a very difficult job. This is a program that has a history of not winning. Not Desiree's fault. Not Coach Arroyo's fault. You could even make the argument it's not Tony Sanchez's fault. This has just been a program that's been bad for a long time. That's why I say this is a very difficult program.
But it should not be bad. You can practice year-round here. There's a lot of really, really good players.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying it's an excuse.
No, the athletes are here. You've got the man. I mean, moving forward, UNLV football should be good. And I expect, this is football and basketball, in the next 5 years, we'll say by 2025, that UNLV will actually be a member of the Pac-12 conference.
I know that
I have that expectation.
Perhaps. I know that she doesn't want to put undue pressure on Coach Arroyo, but I asked her, I said, where do you see this program in 2, 3, 4 years where it'll, defend your hire, and it'd be a great hire. And I understand she doesn't want to put wins and losses, but let's be honest here. If we're in year 3 and after 3 years he doesn't make a bowl game, I think that is fair judgment right there. You got to give him a couple years to recruit and get things going. By year 3, if you cannot win 6 games in the Mountain West Conference, then in my opinion, something's not working. But you got to give him those 3 years. Let's see if he can do it. I thought giving Sanchez 5 years was ridiculous, and I understand why she kept him for a 5th year, and I think it had a lot to do, if not everything to do with the Fertittas. And I wouldn't expect her to admit that, but I think she was under a lot of pressure. I get the sense, in my opinion, that she wanted to fire Tony Sanchez after year 4, from what I hear, from what my sources told me. But anyway, I hope it works out. I hope Arroyo gets the job done. This is a very difficult job. It is not going to be easy to turn this program around, and there's a lot of people in town. It's funny, they're okay with having a Marvin Menzies here for another couple of years or having Dave Rice here for another couple of years, but when it came to Tony Sanchez, they said, well, if you let him go, you got to win immediately. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there has to be some improvement within the program. I think you have to be competitive in year 1. You don't have to put a target on Coach Arroyo's head and say he's got to make a bowl game in year 1, because I think that's ridiculous. But there are some people that are saying that, not me. But I think by year 3, year 3 is the key year. By year 3, those will be just about all of his players. I'm telling you, Brian, you're going to see so many recruits that are going to want to play in that new stadium. That new stadium is the coolest stadium in the NFL. It's cooler than AT&T. It looks pretty cool. It's one of the best. It's one of the best professional venues in all of sports in general. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of recruits are just going to be pining to play at that stadium, and UNLV is going to recruit out of their mind moving forward.
Well, that has been, to me, that's, if you ask me the biggest issue with the basketball program, it's not talent. They've done a pretty good job recruiting over the course of the last 10 years. It's been coaching.
Right.
But if you ask me what the problem, I agree with you. If you ask me what the problem has been with UNLV football, yeah, it's been coaching, but it's also been talent.
Yeah,
they don't have quarterbacks.
And come on, that stadium, Sam Boyd Stadium, you're talking 25 minutes away from campus, and just the structure of it. That place was an absolute embarrassment in my opinion. And honestly, if I was a high-rated recruit from Vegas like a DeMarco Murray or even a Darnell Washington in this year's class, or even a Tate Martell, I wouldn't want to play there, but I would definitely want to play at the Black Star, at the Death Star.
So we appreciate Desiree taking some time to join us.
Thanks a lot, Desiree.
We'll be at the game Wednesday night. We're following the breaking news in Major League Baseball, of course, as the Astros general manager and manager have suspended for 1 year for this World Series cheating scandal. It's pretty harsh, 1 year suspension, but they're pretty much putting the hammer down. If you're going to try to cheat in Major League Baseball, we're going to get you. I like it. I defend it. I think a 1 year suspension, they're lucky. Think about it. Think about this cheating scandal. Think about what took place here. It's unprecedented. We know that managers cheat. We know at times players have cheated. We remember Sammy Sosa with the corked bat. We know the steroid issues that have taken place over many years.
And I think it's about time for Bill Belichick to retire, because he loves to cheat.
Well, they got caught.
He's shaking in his boots.
They got caught.
He should be.
What I don't like is not necessarily them attempting to cheat or cheating. What I didn't like with Bill Belichick was how he handled it in the press conferences, not owning his actions and apologizing. It goes way back. Way back to the first time they got caught, and he just would not apologize for anything.
His school of thought, and he's a military guy, I will do anything I can to win. And in that case, it included cheating. But yeah, the Astros deserve this punishment, and I'm extremely happy that they got it.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're going to have to wait and see, if Major League Baseball will continue to police this and continue to go after whether it's players, managers, teams for cheating.
Well,
it's serious.
What's coming now is electronic strike zones,
which I've called for years, and everyone has disliked it. Every umpire seems to have a different strike zone. It's unfair to the hitter. It's unfair to the pitcher.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that some umpires are 6'6" and the batter's 5'8", or the umpire's 6'2" and the batter's 5'.
It's an easy fix.
Exactly.
It's an easy fix.
It should.
We're not talking about a foul on the basketball court, which could be subjective. We're talking
Right.
about balls and strikes, which should not be subjective. It should be like tennis. Is the ball in or is it out? It's the exact same thing. And anyone who wants to be one of those people that says, oh, we can't change baseball, we can't change the rules and this sort of thing, give me a break.
Well,
Baseball,
it's uniform.
It's a joke.
It needs to be uniform, because if one umpire has poor vision, another umpire's got great vision, they're going to see different things, and it's going to make the fan think a little differently, and it's going to make the fan think there's a bias there.
All right, well, another show in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us tomorrow, we have the former Nevada Attorney General, George Chanis, will be joining us. So we got a lot to talk to with him. He's got a new book coming out, so he'll be joining us tomorrow. Of course, we will follow the breaking news in Major League Baseball. And, of course, we will be covering this National Football Championship game in college tonight. So plenty to get to tomorrow on the show. We're going to take a 21-hour break. I heard rumors maybe Sean Hannity will be the next president of the United States. It's certainly not going to be me, but you can listen to his radio show. It's coming up next right here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.
Prize winners will win $500,000 that could be used toward their dream home.